until there was a gap between us. No anti-Balaka had the possibility to set alight a house. If it was us who had won the battle, then maybe we could have set alight houses. If it would have been us, we could talk about this. But it wasn't us. And around 17 hours, we were already far away. In the beginning of the fight, of the attack at the cemetery level, there were many wounded. We advanced, but at a certain point, we were forced to retreat, to withdraw, and go into the bush. No one could have advanced to those areas to set the school alight. No anti-Balaka was there. All of us had to retreat because we had many wounded in our midst.
My last question for today is the following. In your statement in 2016 provided to the Office of the Prosecution in the paragraph 65 and 66, you describe, Mr. Dana, 2 occasions whereby you yourself decided to leave the battlefield. Once when Bossangoa was controlled and you discovered that FACA members were stealing from people at the checkpoints, which we already discussed. That made you angry and you decided to leave Bossangoa. That's the first event. Second, when you spoke to your cousin Kolongo on the phone and they were told that he was walking free in Boirab, you decided to go to Bangui. So 2 occasions whereby you left the battlefield. You agree with me? Is this a correct reflection of what you decided? That you, on 2 occasions, yourself decided to leave the battlefield?
I did not quite understand your question.
Put it directly to you, sir. You testified today under oath that you were under orders and nobody was allowed to leave. That was your evidence today. You're under strict orders and you couldn't leave the movement. That we are telling today to the judges. Yet in your statement, I pointed to 2 occasions whereby you left the battlefield. So I put it to you that you were not under orders. You were totally free to go and leave the movement. You now understand my question?
When I talked about the freedom to leave the movement, that is when we were in Gobere. We had been directed to Gobere it was a directive that we received, so there was no possibility for us to go back to my village. It was someone who had guided us right to Gobere. Now, when I realized that the promises made were not true, it was no longer possible for me to find a way back to my village. But when we came out of there, we advanced right to Bosangwa. And when I gave a mission order to set up a roadblock, I knew which road could be taken to go to Bangui. And when this order started, I called my brother, who told me that he was in Boirab in Bangui and that he was better off there. And since there were acts of violence, exactions, I decided to go to the center of Bosangwa. At that time, no one was commanding us. At that time, I took my elements, we took a vehicle, and we went to Bangui. So from a chronological order, I told you how I moved from Gobere to Bosangwa right to Bangui. But when I told you that I could not leave the movement, it was in Gobere, simply because we had been guided there at the beginning. And to come out of there was not possible because we did not know which road to take to go back. Those who were from the Gobere locality might have been able to know how they could get out of that locality.
Clarifies it, I would say.
Yeah.
So it does not seem, the witness does not mean to say that it was absolutely impossible to leave the movement. He spoke he spoke about certain circumstances during a certain period. I understood it this way, at least.
Yeah, but that's not the impression which he gave the defense. So that's why I'm asking Mr. Dana. So you would agree that there was a point in time where you could freely leave the movement, and that your decision was taken by yourself and nobody forced you to stay, correct?
I have told you that no one prevented me from leaving the group, from leaving the anti-Balaka movement. I told you that I did not have the possibility of leaving Gobere. I arrived there and realized that the promises made were not honored. They were not what we had been told. A question was put to me, and I said that from Gobere, I did not know which road to take to return. And when we arrived Benzambe, from Benzambe, I could see the road. We advanced, and when we reached the center of Bosangwa, I was able to know which road was going to Bangui. And so after having set up the roadblocks, when they started committing exactions, I talked about it with Dangba. And Dangba submitted the issue to the Council of Soldiers. There was no reaction. And so I was compelled to leave myself. I could no longer bear the situation, so I took the decision to leave for Bangui with all the elements. My cousin had been in Boirap. He asked me to come, and he handed over a base to me that I started commanding. I hope you have understood what I meant by that.
Yes, Mr. Dane, but it's not what you testified today. I asked you this morning why, despite the promises were not met, you stayed in Gobert and you engaged in fighting, and your answer was, I was forced to stay from Gobert on. And now you say,
I think there is really no. I think you make a problem out of not so much here. Also, we have the whole testimony of the witness who continues in the movement, who works further in the movement. So that he was really forced. Do we really take it from his whole evidence? We have to look at this holistically. Do we really take from that he was forced 1.5, 2 years or longer to stay in the movement?
Yeah, Mr. President, that's indeed
so I
valid
think
question.
we can simply leave it at that. I would say, Ms. Strauben, I think we should. This subject is really exhausted, I think.
No, and I think he also very clearly explained all the promises and the lists and what the purpose was of staying and the incentive that was given to them. I think he explained that in quite some length. How they were kept there.
This is really, Mr. Knopf, this is not a really significant issue. I think he might have said something in the morning that could have interpreted in that way. Yes, I agree. But if we look at this whole statement and what he has said now, I think we can leave it at that. Meaning that this was your last question, I understand, for today.
Yes, Mr. President, for today.
So it makes sense that you said that you have split into 2013 and 14, that we conclude for today and continue tomorrow. Yeah. There is a short issue for tomorrow. We have to finish at 3:30 tomorrow because there's a status conference here from another chamber at 4 o'clock. Yeah, well, I'm informed. I gave us 10 minutes more, but we should finish ideally at 3 o'clock. With regard to how we proceed, it depends a little bit, Mr. Knopf, how far and quick you get. We will see that. We can shorten the lunch break, but I take it that nevertheless we can finish with your examination tomorrow. So we meet each other at 9:30 tomorrow. Mr. Witness, again, thank you very much that you undertake this home labor, so to speak, this homework of annotating this map.
All rise, veuillez vous lever.